Whittier Plan Commission meeting for Thursday, August 24th, 2017 is called to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Secretary, please roll call.
Commissioner Bonova.
Here.
Commissioner Creech.
Present.
Commissioner Dorban.
I'm here.
Commissioner Johnson.
Here.
Commissioner Powers is here. Chairman Afato.
Here.
And Commissioner Kalis is absent with prior notice.
Thank you. Brooke, any changes to the agenda?
No changes.
Citizens' concerns and comments. This time it's if you would like to talk about items that are not public hearing and any other items, please come forward. Okay. Consent items, docket number SCBA 17-34, a near nail and spa, 228 McHenry Road, appearance approval of a wall sign. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Dorban, second by Commissioner Johnson. Mr. Secretary.
Commissioner Dorban.
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Commissioner Bonova.
Yes.
Commissioner Creech.
Yes.
Commissioner Powers votes yes. Chairman Afato.
Yes. Items for review, docket number PC 17-14, Burger King 425 West Dundee Road. Site plan and appearance approval of building and site modifications, and what we don't have here is signage. The sign is not on there.
Oh.
Then we'll have to vote on that at the next consent meeting.
Can we?
No.
No? I'm sorry, I missed that. Brooke, any changes? Okay.
No.
Okay. When is our next meeting?
Our next meeting is September 14th.
Okay. So if the petitioner could come forward. So, and I'm sorry, can you state your name again?
Tracy Willie with Warren Johnson
Tracy.
Architects.
Thank you, Tracy. What we just noticed here is that the docket for the sign is not here. It just reads site plan and appearance approval of building and site modifications. Can we discuss it?
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to discuss the sign tonight. And if everybody is in general agreement for the signs, it will come to the next meeting that we have as a consent item.
Okay.
And you would not have to be present.
Okay.
Okay. But we'll discuss it tonight. If there's any
Okay.
questions around that, we will then probably ask you to come back. But we'll see how that goes. But we can't approve it tonight because it's not on our agenda, and I apologize for that.
Okay.
Thank you. So if you could please explain, go over the details. We had a lot of changes made, so if we could somehow review those in the packet here so everyone can see what the changes that you made, that'd be great. Thank you.
Regarding item number 1, the fence is now made of cedar. I've changed that on the detail. On SP3, I believe. Let me just double check. Yes. Same with the fence rails being 2x6, and the fence vertical boards are now 5/4 inch thick. That's also shown on detail on SP3. Want me to keep going?
Yes, please.
Item number 3, irrigation. We've now provided an irrigation plan. It's sheet number L2 that was submitted.
Okay. Please continue, just go
Item
through
number
them.
4, we are no longer painting the existing brick. We are adding on top of the existing face brick the 2 different types of Nichi hot panels, both I brought samples again. And the brick that's being added, Nichiha, is not going to be painted either, so nothing will be painted.
Okay.
The top Nichiha comes in already painted. It's not a brick, it's a Nichiha panel. So no more painted brick on the building or on the trash enclosure. The verify safe access in and out of the property, we did update the site plan to reflect the Wheeling Town Center change on the roadway, which affects our plan, and we have changed the in and out arrows to better reflect what's going to take place once the construction is done. The vehicle access out of the drive-through, I've eliminated the bump in the peninsula and just made it, just basically squared it off and rounded it off so they can just come straight out. We did make it, after talking to Burger King, they do want that right turn only. They feel coming left out of there will be a little too chaotic, so they are suggesting a right turn only, and then they can exit at the top of the property. The light poles, we're going to leave our existing light poles, but we are going to replace the heads to be new LED heads, which after looking at the Wheeling Town Center lighting, it's very similar. So it should be very complementary to what's at the town center. And then we did adjust the signage. It wasn't on this sheet, but we did adjust the signage.
Yeah, this isn't correct, right? This reads right what you have up there, flame grilling since 1954.
Yes.
It says right now, home of the Whopper? Or is it?
That may have been the rendering and he did not change it, but the sign that they want now is the flame grilling. That's the home of the Whopper, if that was on the rendering, was an older model.
This is.
That is correct. The shop drawing right there is correct. And the button signs are now 48 inches round per the code.
Okay. Anything else?
That's it.
Okay, great, thank you. We'll start with Commissioner Dorvan.
Thank you. I really appreciate
Pam?
all the trouble you went through.
Thank
I
you.
really appreciate all the trouble that you went through to update this and get this all to us in such a timely fashion, and
Sure.
such a nice job.
Oh, thank you.
I don't have any other questions, just thank you.
Thank you.
Look forward to all the continued changes.
Okay.
Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you. I too appreciate how quick you got these changes made, and looks like you gave us everything we asked for. The exterior finishes now, if you could just go over those real
Sure.
quick again and show us on the elevations.
The rendering, if you can pull that up, will definitely show it. Yeah. Okay, the towers are coming out of this. This is the top panel, the bigger block sections, that's the top color. This is the brick being installed over the face brick, and it's not going to be painted, so it will look exactly like that. And then that's the red tile, inside the one corner tower that you see on the rendering.
And you have all of these,
Okay?
you have all of these listed?
Yes.
Okay, because they have not changed since the
No, they
last
have
time
not
you
changed,
just
except now
added-
we're not painting the brick, and we are
just added
putting
the
it
square
everywhere.
footage. Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And then could you just walk us through the signs again, as far as what's on each side of the building?
The side that's on the rendering that's up there will have the flame grilling sign that is attached to the very front of the awning. And then on the tower, it's not shown because I didn't want to show it in case it wasn't approved. It's on the elevations that I submitted. It's just around 48 inch on the north elevation. And then the east elevation also has a 48-inch round on that tower, and that's all the signage.
Okay, so it's just those two sides?
Yes, plus the one on the awning, so 3 total, but,
Okay, thank you. That's all I had.
okay.
Commissioner Creech.
Hi, thank you. Last time you spoke about the awnings that were going to be closed from now on.
Yes,
I was just curious, how, is it going to be like regular roofing material in
it's,
that? or-
they close it with the same material of the awning. They just put these panels up there so you can't, nothing can go through the awning. They used to be open, which would allow for rain and everything to come through, and they realized that they don't want that. So they close them off with the same material as the awning. Once the awning gets installed, they go back and they pop the same material up and just, they cut them on the site, make sure they have the right size, and they just pop them in. They usually come in 3 sections,
Okay,
and then it just closes off the awning.
I think it looks great.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Blanova.
Yeah, I also want to thank you for the project and how
Sure.
fast everything, all the concerns were answered. But a quick question with patio seating, you decided to remove it, right?
The what sign?
The patio seating?
Oh, yes, I did talk to the owner about that, and it wasn't well-used at all in the past, and they would rather just remove it, and then if they do want to add it in the future, they can, but they'd rather just put it with landscape and grass for now.
Got it, thank you.
Sure.
That's all I.
Thank you. Commissioner Powers.
I echo my fellow commissioners. I'm really glad you looked at the town center plan. You adapted your site plan and the landscape plan to accommodate that. I think you're going to be happy with the way that flows. I
Yeah.
mean, I really appreciate that. And I have to say, last time you were here, the meeting was over. I said, I wish they would have asked you about the trash enclosure, and you took care of that too. So I wasn't expecting it. I was very happy to see that. So I really appreciate that.
Sure.
That's it.
Thank you. I have 2 things. One, in a staff review, did you see the comment from the Health Division about the ceiling tiles?
Yes, and I did, we use a gypsum-type board, and I already have an email back from her telling me that what we currently spec is perfectly fine and approved. It's just our normal, it's a gypsum-faced tile, and I sent her the spec, and
So
that's
do
good.
we need to add that because it's interior, they're working on the interior also? Should we add that as a condition?
Sure. I added it into the
Okay,
motion.
we'll just add it as a condition, but you're fine. And then lastly, this is around the exterior, and I believe it's probably on the sign, the signage. I had a new, hold on, let me find it. It's an actual picture, Brooke, and I'm not certain that you have it.
I have the sign plans, if that's what
Yeah.
you're looking for.
Where this sign says Home of the Whopper.
Oh, yes, I have those.
So,
That's an example of an older one, yes.
right, so 2 things on this picture right here. If this, does this go to the Plan Commission? I mean, where the Plan Commission, Village Board?
Yes.
So do we need to change this picture, or, because this does not depict what is approved?
It's just an example of a similar building, not
I wanted to show you what the Nichiha looks like unpainted.
So that's, okay, so,
And the sign permits are not approved based on these
These
plans.
great.
They're based on
Then
the
good,
specific
excellent.
plan submitted.
so, and that was my next question. You led me right into it. This depiction here of the brick, that is this?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. That looks very nice. That looks very nice. Before I ask for a motion, the sign, we're not going to approve the sign tonight, but are there any other comments about the signage? No?
No.
No.
None.
Okay, great. So based upon that, it will come to us as a consent item.
Okay.
As we had a consent item tonight, no one will have to be present
Okay.
for that.
Okay.
Great. Any other questions?
No.
Do I hear a motion
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion on docket number PC 17-14 by Commissioner Dorban, second by Commissioner Johnson. Mr. Secretary?
Should we read the condition first? So that
Yes,
we know?
I'm sorry. I forgot there was a condition.
The only condition is the ceiling in the kitchen, warewashing, storage rooms, and bathrooms shall not be acoustical. They must be vinyl-clad gypsum board for easy cleanability.
Great, thank you.
Should we say that we're eliminating the sign until, I mean, do we need to do that? Is it?
No, because it's not on the agenda.
Okay.
It's not even,
Okay,
it's
just
only
wanna
for the
make sure.
PC
Okay.
docket, not the SBA.
I just wanted to make sure.
Okay,
Okay,
great.
thank you.
So by Commissioner Dorban and seconded by Commissioner Johnson. Mr. Secretary?
Commissioner Dorban?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Vanola?
Yes.
Commissioner Creech?
Yes.
Commissioner Powers votes yes. Chairman Rafato?
Yes. Here you go. You can take those. You'll have one more thing to sign.
Yes.
Oops.
No problem.
Thank you.
Don't leave yet. You just have to sign these.
Give me the other one.
No, we don't have our,
Oh, no, you didn't.
we don't have a clipboard.
Oh, you can use it, I think.
If you could just sign that.
We just have.
Actually, well, you can send them both just to say that you were here. And then you can tell your boss, look, I was here, I signed these things. And thank you, very well prepared, deck and everything. And this is for you.
Looking forward to it. Thank
Great,
you.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Calling docket numbers 2017-9 and PC 17-15, Wolf Crossing 411-415 North Wolf Road. Special use site plan approval of a final planned unit development for multifamily residence, PC 17-17, approval of a final plat subdivision. Ms. Jones, anything?
I have nothing right now.
Okay. The petitioner is here. First off, I need to ask, did he win or lose, or did he play yet? The baseball player, did he win or lose? Ah, just practice. Okay,
Practice in order to win.
Wanted to find out. Everybody has been sworn in. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Shapiro.
Good evening, my name is Dan Shapiro, I'm representing the petitioner. We were here before you last month and received a vote 4-3 favorable for final plat, final PUD, then went to the village board on August 7th for the village board to consider that recommendation, and as you know, the village board voted unanimously in favor. With your vote, there were several conditions, and we listened to those conditions, went back to work to try to address, to address all of them. And we have since submitted revised plans and a cover letter explaining how we can and will address them. But just by way of review, I'd like to go through them, if I may. The first, not in any particular order, but on my sheet here, the first condition was that the brick should not be veneer. We've addressed that. Include downspouts on the elevation plans. They were included. I think they were maybe hiding a little bit, but they've been called out a little bit easier and a little bit better for staff. So they're on your plans. Bigger patios, we have increased the patios from 10 by 10 to 10 by 12 to give it a little more room. Units shall have decks off the second floor. We've done that. Burying the downspouts, we've provided plans where the downspouts are now buried. Mailboxes shall have canopies, or the mail, and we have provided that, and we'll do that as well. Provide alternative light fixtures, which we have, and when I say this, all of the new submittals would show that these things have been addressed. Include lighting on a photometric plan. We've updated the photometric plan, it's been submitted, and it meets the village's requirements. And additional landscaping between the units, which we have provided. All of these we have done, There was one recommendation or condition that you asked us to accommodate, which we were not able to do completely, and that was to irrigate everything. What we were able to do is we were able to provide an irrigation plan showing irrigation in the front along Wolf Road. And there are a couple reasons for that. Not out of disrespect or that we didn't hear you, but there are a couple reasons why we're providing the plan that we did. First, there are spouts in the back, so people can use their hose and irrigate themselves where they wish to irrigate their flowers, etc. Secondly, we looked at the engineering component of irrigating everything along with the bearing of the downspouts. And I might add, the bearing of the downspouts was a little bit of an engineering task and challenge, but we've achieved that. And it would become even more difficult if you bury the downspouts and have a in-ground irrigation system where you've asked us to. And third, it's a cost factor. I know you would say, well, D.R. Horton's a big, but when you add all these things up, they become costly. And so we're glad that we could address what I would say would be 95% of the conditions that you asked us to address, and want to be as transparent and as explanatory as we can with regards to the irrigation system. So with that, we're certainly here for any questions that you may have.
Great, thank you. This is a public hearing. Did we have to reopen it?
No, it's actually not a public hearing.
Oh, that's right. But we can ask.
You can always ask.
Yeah. Is there anyone wishing to speak on this matter? No? Okay, good. So, thank you, Mr. Shapiro, for the information we saw. So I will go to the Plan Commission members right now. Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you. First off, Brooke, will there be the late drawings that we received on the downspouts and everything, will they automatically be part of the packet going forward?
Yes, I have included that as a condition noted on
Okay.
in the motion. Also, since you're asking about the updates, I just wanted to bring your attention to the memo from the engineering division that was provided today. And also at the dais, you've received an updated site plan that does show the 10 by 12 patios.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
As far as the irrigation, is there something that would be in the association documents that would make the owners responsible for basic irrigation?
Like watering their own place?
Yeah.
I think that just goes generally with, maintaining the upkeep of their units. In speaking about that, Commissioner Johnson, another factor that I failed to mention for the reason that we're irrigating the front and not the rest is we feel that if you were to put an in-ground irrigation system in addition to everything else with regards to irrigation, it could really kind of boost up the obligations of the association members in a way that just would be attractive for them. So to answer your question, I believe just the general maintenance responsibilities would allow them to take their hose, just like I do my house, and when the flowers get droopy or whatever, you water them.
And the association would probably get after somebody themselves if
They could,
one
sure.
property owner wasn't keeping up. The landscaping itself, the grass cutting and everything, that's through an outside service, right? That's not up to each individual
For
person?
the common elements,
Yes.
it's through an outside service.
Okay, that's all I had right now. Thanks.
To that point, though, right here, what would be the common elements?
You were pointing at something with that.
So, I'm sorry.
Okay.
So you've
thought it was
got all the green, which I assume is grass. So in front of the buildings are not common elements, so those would have to be cut, or are those common elements?
Good evening, Commissioners. Bruce Mellon with D.R. Horton. Pleasure to be in front of you again today. All of the landscape areas are including the maintenance by the third party, and the HOA is obligated to take care of it. There's no landscape maintenance, no grass cutting that any of our owners are obligated to do on their own.
So that's a bit of a difference than what you said.
I'll defer to Bruce. I was mistaken.
Okay.
I mean, our homeowners are certainly allowed to come out in the backyard and
I don't know why anybody would want to buy a lawnmower. In the garage, I can't
water their flowers in the back or something like that, but just in terms of, cutting the beds, mulching, grass cutting, replacing plants as needed, that would be part of the HOA responsibility.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.
That's all I had.
Commissioner Creech.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In our prior meeting, we had a discussion about a sidewalk on the south side of the property. There was a little back and forth with the engineer, Mr. Tack, and with the attorney about the vacating of the Meyer Avenue property. So I understand that this has been completed. So that property is now part of your plan unit development, correct?
That would be part of the PUD, and we did submit a plat of vacation, I believe per the board's request and per staff's request.
Right, we have it under review, under staff review. It has not yet been vacated.
Yeah, there's a process for that.
If you could talk into the
I'm so
microphone,
sorry.
Dan, thank you.
Yes, I should know better. There's that process, but we have submitted a plat for review.
Okay, well, my discussion before, my question before was, since we have a comprehensive plan in the Village of Wheeling to try and fill in all the gaps of sidewalks and make it a little bit more people-friendly, and I believe your, Mr. Hoffman also in his presentation stated that people spend more money walking to restaurants in the community, so.
We're willing to do it. To be clear, we're happy to do it. We've offered to do it. I guess we're just deferring to this board and to the village, to this commission and the village board. So if that's the desire, we're happy to do it.
Well, I think that's what we're trying to do in the village with our comprehensive plan. is
Understood.
To fill in the sidewalks, and it wasn't addressed tonight, and I thought I'd bring it up, so
Thank you.
that's all really I have tonight.
Commissioner Powers.
I guess a little bit still disappointed on the irrigation. I see where you're making the investment in Wolf Road. The only thing I can say is I thought the board had also mentioned that, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe I misheard them, but I thought they said they wanted the front of all the units irrigated, didn't they? I could be wrong, but
We can discuss.
There could have been a misunderstanding between the front, like.
the
where-
front Wolf Road versus front of the
Yeah.
units,
Yeah.
right?
That's all I can imagine would have happened there.
Yeah, okay. That's fine. I really have nothing else.
Commissioner Dorvan.
To dovetail on what Steve just said, so where does that leave us? Are we only irrigating the Wolf Road, or are we irrigating all of the front of all of the units?
Our plan shows the irrigation system, as you can see here on your monitor and on the screen. The irrigation would be a long front road, a long Wolf Road.
Wolf Road only?
Yes.
Okay. Based on the cover letter and what staff has listed there, are you confident that everything has been addressed? Are you confident that everything is being addressed that we had talked about?
Yes.
Okay. You earlier talked about,
Commissioner Dorvan, can I interject something
Yes.
about the landscaping, irrigation? Because I know everybody's passionate about the irrigation. But I believe we approved, the preliminary PUD, we approved that we added the condition to have everything irrigated.
Correct.
And that was approved by us and then also by the board.
The board did take up your recommendation.
And they approved it with that condition
Understood.
in it.
Understood.
Okay, so I don't know why we couldn't still add that condition to the final if that is still what we are looking for. You know, we're dancing around it. We're dancing around it, and you mentioned it, Commissioner Powers mentioned it, Commissioner Johnson mentioned it, and, you know, I can take a poll to see about adding that as a condition, because I see, and I want to derail it, but we're talking about it, I see areas that truly need irrigation around the parking, on the sides of the buildings, between 4 and 5, 9 and 10, 13, 30, and you've got all these trees, 34, 35, 30, and 31, that if we're going to, those things are going to fall in disarray because they have no ownership. They have no ownership whatsoever around those. So that was the concern of mine that I was going to bring it up, but since you brought it up, I wanted to bring it up then as we have that conversation. But
I apologize. I do understand what you're saying, but with respect, I think your presumption that they will fall into disarray is not true.
well, we're a recommending board, we're a commission.
Yes.
And a lot of folks on this board, there's at least 3 of us that have had a lot of experience on this board.
I understand. I completely understand.
So we'll leave it at that. I'm
Okay.
sorry, Commissioner Dorban, continue.
Thank you. I, being the only one on this commission who lives in that kind of an environment, will tell you, yes, in fact, it will fall into disarray because people won't water. I know how that works. No matter how much you ask people, if you tell them to water, they'll say, are you going to pay my water bill? So I will tell you that I know how that works. As the president of the association for 20 years, I'm fully aware of how that goes. The other issue is the street, the lighting, everything that's in the trees, everything that's involved here on this whole piece of property needs to be noted to the homeowner association that they are responsible. Because in the end, they need to have substantial reserves in order to cover those items. And as I said, after 20 years, I'm fully aware of what this cost can be.
Sure. And we have provided the draft CCRs, or Declaration of Covenants and Conditions, restrictions to staff, and I presume they're looking at that. And I presume, I mean, I haven't heard anything to the contrary that it was, that there were concerns, but it has been submitted to staff.
Okay, that's all I have.
Commissioner Blanova.
I don't have any concerns that were not previously addressed. Thank you.
Thank you. So I too have a concern about the irrigation, that it should be irrigated. And one of the comments, and so, you know, and I looked at this and I said, well, okay, maybe we could get away with just irrigating the plantings around the buildings, the common areas, and avoiding the back, you know, and I could actually, in my eyes, I could live with that. But then I saw all of the trees. And some of these are new, some of these are existing, that I think should be irrigated. And I'll discuss this with the Plan Commission. We'll take a poll as to whether we would like to see the irrigation. I'll do that. A couple of questions, though. One other question, and this is more in regard to the declarations of the HOA. So do you have, and it sounds like I'm really read up on this stuff, but I just happen to know, besides Pam, I happen to know folks that are in townhouse developments and condo developments. Do you have any agreements in your declaration as to the number of rentals that are in here that you can have?
Like a minimum rental or maximum rental?
Yeah.
I don't believe we do. I looked at them very cursorily because they were done by another law firm that has more expertise.
I
And
know,
do
there are
that-
law firms that have that expertise.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just-
and, I mean, retrospect, I should have looked at them closer, but I don't believe so.
Okay, and then that would lead to, when they could rent them, but if they don't, I was just curious about that, because I know the folks that I've talked to about that have stated, they've gone into detail about the number, normally it's like a percentage, and that, I think I read it that it has to, the lease agreement, I think in the agreement, that you have, it says something about rentals, and I have it highlighted, let me find it. Highlighted in yellow.
May I interject something
Yes.
while you're looking?
Sure, please do, as you,
Quite honestly, if there are too many rentals, you're going to have people having a hard time getting a mortgage. And also, your insurance company, every time you ask them, are there any rentals? We happen to have no rentals, we don't allow them, we've filed it with the state. And I will tell you that your insurance rates go up.
yes,
There
that
is-
was another thing that I heard, that insurance rates go up if you have more rentals.
There is provision 2.15.
Yep,
in the
that's what I
CCRs
saw, right,
That
yep.
does allow under conditions for a lease. And I remember years ago coming before, I think it was this body, not all of you, but there was something like you can't have more than 20% or you can't have more than 50%. I remember that discussion from years ago. But here, it just says it can't be rented for less than 6 months, and you have to have certain conditions met in order to satisfy that.
Yeah, and I guess it's a product, as Commissioner Dorban indicated, that, as if there are more rentals, your insurance is going to go up, the values are going to go down, and you're not going to find, and I guess that's self-regulating.
Correct.
I guess, from that perspective, but just something, and it can't be part of what we're approving here. I was just curious if that is something that you would consider, and we're not voting on that here, it's not part of this, to be added as, and Commissioner Dorban, in your development, was that in there from the beginning, or did you add it later? Just curious.
It was it was like 4 years later, I want to say.
Yeah, okay, that's what happened with my friend too, same thing. They had a market where there were a lot of rentals, and they also had a condition that you couldn't rent it unless you had owned it for a year. So those things are very interesting, and I could see where you source some of those things out for the HOA and let them manage it, so. Okay, I was just curious about that, if that was in there. I had read this, I have it highlighted, I wanted to make sure if there was anything else in there about that, so. Just take it as a note.
Okay.
And then lastly, back to.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
And on that point too, I believe our village attorneys are working on something with the Airbnb rentals. I was just wondering if this would add any effect into these kind of associations?
Well, I would assume it would have an impact on any dwelling in the village. So irrespective of being condo, townhouse, single family, it would have that what they're working on would have an impact on it.
Thank you.
Okay, so, but that's a good point. It will, from an Airbnb perspective, yeah. Looking for one place in Scottsdale right now of Airbnb, and I assume they have all these regulations around this stuff, and there is none. It's just
Well, it's really up in the air right now.
so we're a small community of, 40,000 or so. So can you imagine the city of Chicago, millions of people?
We're kind of doing a wait and see. A lot of people are wait and seeing because they did regulate it, and then there's been challenges. So we're trying to see what shakes out. Most municipalities are.
So last thing that I have, and thank you for the updates, and, your plan was very good, very well prepared, and we appreciate that. The petitioners that we've had tonight, what you've presented is the things that we're looking for, so I do appreciate all the work that goes into this. into what you have to do. We talked about the photometrics, and I just want a clarification. We asked for photometrics to include the fixtures, but they are not displayed.
Yes, sir. So after the meeting, we took a look at the photometric plan. There were a few small spots that showed 0. That's not necessarily atypical, but we wanted to take another look at it. And we updated our plan with LED fixture heads for the street lighting, similar to the last petitioner. And by switching to the LED heads, we were able to achieve the village's standard on the photometric plan without having to contemplate the fixtures on the buildings themselves. That's not typical. That's not typically what the engineer would necessarily want to see would be the fixtures, because you can imagine there might be an opportunity where everybody has their lights off on a given evening. So you can't account for that. So we made the adjustment strictly based on street lighting, and as it stands right now, we believe it meets the village's standards with just the street lighting.
Okay, great, thank you, thank you. You mentioned that you brought in different fixtures. Can you bring those up, the light fixtures? And I know Commissioner Dorban, you discussed these options, you know, and I know you had a comment about them in our previous meeting.
Right.
How do these, I mean,
Well, if the one on the right is open on the bottom, so that they can get in and change the light bulb, I have to tell you, I personally have had, we put in all new lights, okay? And we've had several of them flicker, and I've had to go around and change them all myself. And I will tell you, if I had to take this thing apart and put it back together, I wouldn't be doing it, okay? But I can easily go in there and unscrew it and put a new one in 10 seconds. It's done, okay? So I'm telling you how it works. Practical experience, that's all I can tell you.
so are these the options that they have here? Do you, you know, for instance, you have the two on the right, my right, your right too. Westlake Cast Outdoor Light Wall Lantern and the Builder Cast one. Are these the options that you're giving, or is there a consistent approach that you want to take throughout the whole development?
Well, I believe these would be alternate light
Okay.
fixtures.
All right, great.
That would be offered. And we talked last time, we talked last time about maintaining a sense of continuity, because some buildings have, and even though these are alternate, I don't think that would disrupt the continuity.
Wait a minute, wait, I'm sorry. They're going to get an option to pick one or the other?
I believe that's what you had asked us to do.
No, that would look like a circus.
No, right. You're absolutely right, Commissioner Dorman. You had asked to see some different options, so these are two that we picked. I guess
Yeah,
we're looking for
well, I mean,
guidance.
you can't have both of them.
No,
in there.
we're asking for guidance from you, which one you prefer.
Okay, just one that somebody can easily go in and change a light bulb, because,
So that would be, on this one, that would probably be the one on the right.
correct.
Yeah.
And to your point, that it is open on the bottom, so there's no glass or obstruction on the bottom, so you can get in and change the light bulb. So what I'm hearing is you like the one on my right up here.
The one,
Correct.
the one with the open bottom.
Yeah, right, okay.
Correct.
Okay,
Certainly not both of them, though.
no, I understand.
Because it would look like a circus.
Okay, good, thank you. You're 0 for 2 tonight, Dan.
Wow.
That's okay, that's why you got those
I guess
guys
I
back
didn't eat
there,
my
right?
Wheaties, huh?
That's why you got those guys back there. Thank you, though. You know, thank you for the
No more
clarification.
questions, I might strike out.
One more question on the lights before we go.
Oh, okay, on the lights, sure.
So is the one on the right, is that in place of the one that at the top left that says front garage exterior?
Do you think I'm going to answer now?
Smart move.
Just want to make sure that's the one.
The answer, I'm going to ask ask a friend. The answer is yes.
Okay, thank you.
Great. So, okay, great, thank you. That's good.
My guess is the bottom one is probably going to be used in the interior where there's 2 units together, am I correct, in the upper level, upper part? Somebody answer that one. When you've got all your units, so there's got to be a light over the doors, I would assume, when they're in the middle, so is that what you're anticipating?
Yes, ma'am. So part of the original concept reviews that we cover our front porches, provide porches on each of these units, so that would be installed to provide lighting directly at the door.
So that would be in the interior of the units?
It would be
By
under
the front
awning.
doors, in
Yes.
other words?
Yes, ma'am.
And then, can we go back again?
Do you
And
want, would you
what
like
was-
to look at the front of the units to see where that's going?
And then I just want to know which light you were talking about for the back of the units.
Okay, we'll go back.
So go back, okay, so,
Because you've got the same issue if you pick that middle unit, if that middle one for the back, you've got the same issue of not being able to get to that light. You can see there's screws on the side, so that means somebody's got to get up there on a ladder and unscrew it, untake it apart, and then put in the light and put it back.
So the light fixture on the front would go under the front, the cover on the front door. The one in the middle would go behind the patio door on the rear of the unit. And I understand what you're saying. That's what we're proposing, is to use the light in the middle on the rear of the units.
Okay, the one on the bottom that you're going to use between the units, you can stand on a ladder and do it. The one in the back on the patio is not going to be so easy. I can tell you, I've tried to do it myself. I've had to get back there and get a ladder, and I get there a ladder, and then the legs of the ladder sink into the dirt, and pretty soon I've got an issue, and you've got an unsteady ladder, and you've got somebody up there on a ladder. Can't we figure out how to have a better light that is more easily accessible for the light bulb to be changed?
Well, the one on the rear, you would be on the patio.
Okay, let me see the back of the units again. I'm sorry to interrupt back down there, but
that's all right.
I apologize.
It's quite all right. We're on,
It's gonna be on the
we're on
back
a roll.
wall.
I asked about the lights, and we can have the open dialogue. Oh, there was a rear right there.
The color rendering.
There it is.
Right there. Back
Actually, that shows the light right there on the right.
Okay, so the patio is going to extend out so that somebody could get a ladder up there. But you still have the issue of it having to be unscrewed and taken down. All I'm asking is, can't we find some other kind of light that is easier to be accessible? I mean, there's a lot of lights out there. That's not the only light I've ever seen.
So Pam, are you saying, I'm thinking the fixture that we saw on the far right, that's used everywhere except for the front porch. That's what I'm thinking.
No, that's the front porch.
I know, but
Do you
we're
have-
not
do you have
talking
split-
about
do you have
where it
split
is. I'm talking
screen?
about the accessibility, but he's not going to use
Had to
that
go
in the
split
back.
They're
screen.
separate
Yeah.
by
It's gonna be in the
30
front.
sides.
Okay.
That's what I'm trying to say.
So,
So you want them to use that one?
Well, it doesn't have to
Can
be
we,
that one. All I'm saying is something that, because this one is going to
Yeah.
cost more money.
Yeah,
Yeah, not something else they could put that's less expensive but easier to access. That's all I'm saying. Because people end up saying, oh, forget it, it's too much work, I have to take it down, and the next thing you know is it's rusted, and they can't get to it, they can't get it out of there, and they leave it off, and so now you have a safety issue.
rather pedestrian light also. What about,
I'm only one vote, just, you know.
right,
I just,
well, so, and I'll take a consensus on that. What about, is it too gauche to have that front light that you suggested and put it in the back also?
That's what I was saying.
well, it's actually probably too big.
Yeah, that's right, that's what I thought. Do they, I've seen areas where you have the similar light, but a smaller version of it. Is that available in that light? Do you know? That's a tough question to ask right now.
I don't know. The only light that I've seen us install in the back of our townhome units is the one that's shown.
It is pretty.
I didn't come with another alternative to show you on that rear light.
So, gosh darn it. Could you go back to the
I have one
lights?
more thought, too.
Pardon?
When you're all done, I have one more thought, too.
Okay. So, well, we'll take a consensus on the lights, but on that light there, it is rather pedestrian, that light. Right there. Interesting. And, you know, and the thing is that people have the option to change lights anyway. Once they're, do they? Can they change lights?
Can they what?
Be better.
So, no, fixtures.
Association.
So, in an association, can they change light fixtures?
They could, not in the front.
Not in the front,
Now,
but in the
if they
back.
wanted to put in motion detector lights in the back, then that's their option. I happen to have 3 of them, so,
Okay, so the front they can't, but the back they can.
right.
Okay, so,
But mine are not, I mean, where my motion detectors are is where the real dark areas are. Other people have motion detectors replacing the back light, but
okay,
that has to be approved by the board.
As I understand it, Mr. Chairman, there are a couple matters that you were seeking consensus, one on this particular lighting fixture and the other on the irrigation.
yeah, so far,
Okay,
we're not done yet.
all right.
Yeah, I've got them, I
Making my
don't,
night a little more difficult each minute.
yeah, I don't forget. So, I have one last question, then we'll do our consensus things.
Sure.
Ron, on extending the deck on top, does that require, and you're going to allow grills, I would assume, on the outside, does that require any type of fire suppression outside?
What they're going to have to do is put what they call a sidewall, dry sidewall head over the sliding door at both levels. Because if they were to use a barbecue grill, it has to be at least 10 feet from combustible materials. And I'm assuming that the deck is a combustible material. It's not a pre-stressed concrete or similar. So the grill at the homeowner's option could be either used on the patio or on the deck. So you would have to provide it at both locations.
And we recall this discussion from last time.
Yes,
And thank you
that
for
is
your
correct.
correction. And so with the building permit, those will be sprinkled.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be part of the sprinkler
And
review.
I realize it's part of the code, but I just wanted to make sure everybody heard that also.
Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah, if they didn't have the balcony, then they would probably just have to do it at the lower level.
Okay, excellent. Okay, thank you. Commissioner Dorban, you had another question?
Yeah, you know, not too long ago, I had a conversation with a policeman and a fireman at the same time. And one of their recommendations was that the addresses be placed on the back of the units because the fire department nor the police department knows what unit they are at when they are in the back of the units. So is there some way we can add the addresses on the back of the unit, possibly under the lights? That's
That's a new one to me.
well, I just thought of it when I looked at the back of the unit. I remembered that they had asked us to do that.
Sure.
Okay?
Is that helpful, Ron, from?
In this particular case, I don't know if it would. There's no roadway access to the back of the building. I can see if they were taking a hand line around or something, or the police were chasing an offender and they were looking for the unit. There aren't that many units. It's probably a very subjective and arguable position.
Okay, but I like the idea. I'll do a consensus on that one, address in the back.
Maybe just in the middle.
Back and.
It is, I mean, it is difficult because even in our complex, you start on A and D in one place and then it goes D and A in the other place. So it's kind of confusing.
Does anybody else have any other questions, comments? No? Okay, so we have a couple of things here. Let's start with the last one. as far as adding the address to the back of the buildings, should that be a yes, or should we add those, have them add that? Commissioner Johnson?
I don't think so, no.
Commissioner Blanova?
I agree, I don't think, not in this complex.
No? Okay. Commissioner Powers?
I'm going to say no.
Commissioner Creech?
I also would say no.
Commissioner Dorban, you're a yes,
Yes.
and I would say no also. Okay. So the light that we have, Brooke, can you bring that light up on the back? Is that light, what we're looking for, is that okay for the back? And we have a condition here that the builder cast one light outdoor wall lantern. Are all these LEDs nowadays? Or are those
Depends what
incandescent?
bulb you put in them.
Okay, all right. Oh, that's right. What am I talking about? Well, some of the fixtures.
Well, some of them come with one.
Yeah, some of the fixtures aren't really good with LEDs, so. So as far as the proposed rear exterior fixture, is that okay for this, Commissioner Creech?
So, make this clear, the one on the right here, this builder cast one light outdoor is going to be used in the front and the rear?
No,
No,
just the front. The one on the left where it says rear exterior is the one that is proposed. Is that okay for this?
Yes, I'm fine with that.
Okay, Commissioner Dorban,
No.
Commissioner Powers,
Yes.
Commissioner Blanova,
Yes.
and Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Okay, so that's 4 yeses right there. I don't have to vote. Nobody knows. Okay, so irrigation. In our original preliminary PUD, we asked for it to be all irrigated. And the petitioners come back and said, no, we're only going to irrigate the front. So we'll start with, we're looking for it all to be irrigated. So Commissioner Creech,
Yes.
Commissioner Dorband,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
I'm really torn with this one. It's important the first year to get everything stabilized, but no.
Commissioner Blanova,
Yes.
Commissioner Powers.
Yes.
And I vote yes. We'd like the whole thing irrigated. Thank you. Any other questions? So, and again, I want to thank you for the preparation that you put into this, Mr. Shapiro and the team.
So just by way of direction, would you then be making a recommendation on final PUD and final plat tonight? Because we would ask for that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we're voting. We're going to vote on that.
Okay. Before we take a motion.
What about the sidewalks? What about the sidewalk on the south side?
I'm sorry. I completely forgot about that. So can you go back to a view, or can this show here? I'm sorry, the sidewalk on the vacated property?
Yes.
So is that something that we can request that they add in one of these motions?
Isn't this something that's kind of dependent on what the village is doing?
Yep.
That's why we have an attorney
I
here.
know, I'm trying to think of the best way to word that. I think that we need a consensus from the commission as to whether they want to see it, and then propose it to the board to take under consideration.
Okay,
I wouldn't put it as a condition of, like, to require installment, but to say the plan commission indicates that they wants this, or for the board to consider requiring or or asking for a sidewalk to be installed.
And again, just for my
I know.
understanding.
You guys are all for it?
Yeah, no, but we're talking about the same thing. When we talked about the vacation, that's
Yes.
the same thing as sidewalk discussion, just so the.
Yeah, to install a sidewalk along the south,
Yeah,
like towards
which would-
the Boston Fish
Which would
Market,
require the vacation.
which was gonna happen anyways.
Right.
Yeah, that's happening anyways. This would not be contingent, it's just whether to also add that, but I think because staff isn't on the same page and we don't know what the board wants, I think that it'd be good to know what the commission's position is on it. To share with the board and then let the board make a final decision on that aspect. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, but where do we add it to? Do we add it as, in big bold letters when the village board gets their packet saying, we want it? I don't know how we can add
Staff
it.
will ensure that it is a recommendation that goes forward with your formal recommendation, but it's more of a
Right.
suggestion or a consideration.
So-
And it will be highlighted in the staff report.
Okay,
And we'll make sure that it's highlighted and mentioned when it's presented before the board as part of the staff presentation.
so just to ensure that we have consensus for the sidewalk on the vacated property. So Commissioner Creech, I assume you don't want that sidewalk? Yes, you're a yes.
I'm a yes.
Commissioner Dorban,
Repeat the,
sidewalk in the vacated property.
yes.
Commissioner Powers?
Yes.
And Commissioner Blanova?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
And yes. So,
Okay.
yes, consensus is that we'd like to make a recommendation to the village board when the property is vacated that a sidewalk is added.
Okay,
Great, thank you.
and I think I'll be at that meeting. I'll be at that meeting, so I can also make sure it gets discussed.
Great, thank you.
Not that Andrew wouldn't,
Right.
but.
Brooke, you were going to, before we started, before Commissioner Creech reminded me that I missed something.
I just want to clarify the Plan Commission's recommendation regarding the irrigation plan.
Yes.
Do you want, when you say everything, does that include the lawn area?
Yes.
And the little strips between the driveways?
And that's a good point.
That seems like
That would
more
be,
work than it's
I
worth.
think that would be tough to irrigate that.
I can't believe grass would stay alive there for very long.
Yeah, I
I
mean, is there,
can't see why it's not stone or something else.
I mean, it'll get lots of rain. Are you thinking the backyards as well?
There's not much backyard.
Right, and
Yeah.
most trees are pretty hardy in like
So,
driveways that live with
okay,
rain.
so let's take a look here. If we indicated the areas between the buildings, if we start at the top, 1 through 13, the front, of course, between the buildings, okay, so that's between 4 and 5, 9 and 10, along 13. And then from 13 to 39, because we have trees there, along the border of 39, between 34 and 35, between 30 and 31, along the borders between, along the path between 26 and 39, and then behind.
What, sorry, Jim, can you, or Chairperson Rufato, can you please, what are you talking about, the path along between 26 and 39? I thought we were just talking about not doing in between those little in between each little driveway.
The main buildings,
I'm sorry, behind the main buildings between 26
So in
and
the
39.
backyards?
I'm sorry, yes, where the trees are? Yes, that area in the back.
That area is also where you're proposing the sidewalk would go.
Yeah, so it would only go up to wherever that sidewalk's gonna be.
Oh, that's right, yes. Okay,
And those are just trees.
just trees?
I'm just saying, it's like most trees don't
Trees don't usually need
need
to be watered.
watered that much. Trees usually live in the parkway without any issue.
Okay, so taking this back, if we we're irrigating the front.
What is
along
the front, like?
The Wolf
front-
Road,
okay.
I'm sorry, Wolf Road.
Wolf
That's
Road.
the front to me.
Okay.
Where it's indicated on the plan we're looking at right
Indicated on the
here.
plan, between 4 and 5, 9 and 10, along 13, along 25, along 19, between 30 and 31, 34 and 35, 39, and then the parking areas,
guest
behind the parking, the guest parking.
What
Would
about the
everybody
far-
be,
What about the far end,
Are those just
by the
trees?
circle here?
Are those just trees? Right?
These
yes,
are pretty expensive to replace.
I just think the trees are hardy and don't typically need irrigation. They can
right, they're
survive
gonna
on
probably need
rainwater.
regular
on a
stuff.
regular basis.
So here's what me is proposing, because I'm speaking right now, is the front, formerly known as Wolf Road, and starting at the top, between 4 and 5, which is a common area,
Can we
between,
call it in between all buildings?
in between 4 and 5.
Can we just say in between all building?
No, because I want to be specific, because
Okay.
what we have a tendency to do is we have a tendency to be general, and then
That's-
petitioners, not saying that they will take advantage of it, so if we just specifically say what we're doing, then there is no question, right? Right. So between 9 and 10 and 13, and then the middle section between along 25.
Can we say along all end units?
Thank you, that's good, yes, great. Along end units, so it saves you typing. Yes, along all end units, that's a great idea, Brooke, thank you very much. And then the parking, the guest parking areas. So we've got, again, the front, Wolf Road, along the end units, thank you, and then the guest parking,
Okay,
right.
so not in the building front or in the building rears?
Right. That's what I am proposing. That's what I'm proposing, to at least have a bogey that we can start with, and then we can discuss that. Commissioner Johnson, are you okay with what is proposed? And again, I will say it, Wolf Road, the entrances, in the end units, and the guest parking areas.
Yes.
Commissioner Blanova,
Yes.
Commissioner Powers,
Yes.
Commissioner Dorban,
No,
and Commissioner Creech,
Yes.
and I'm okay with that also. And I agree with you, Commissioner Creech. I think that front area, I think we've run into this in the past. Those areas are going to be tough to maintain, really tough to maintain. And I don't think in all the units we've approved, I don't think we've figured it out yet.
Get the turf that they used out here in the field.
Yeah, that could be, that could very well be, yep. So, thank you, Brooke, for that suggestion also. Because then you would head to type 4 and 5, 9 and 10, yeah, right, great.
I want to give you the respect you deserve, Jim.
I'd much prefer Jim anyway. So, you want to, that is on, that's on the special use? site
This
plan?
is the final PUD.
Final PUD, right, so 2017-9.
Okay. How's this? The site shall be irrigated per the irrigation plan and shall also include irrigation around the guest parking areas and along the end units.
Yes, thank you, right. Commissioner, Mr. Shapiro?
One thing I neglected to mention before is that the plantings, and thank you for reminding me, the plantings are designed and specifically selected to be hardy plantings and to withstand the temperatures and its crazy temperatures and seasons that we have here. We hear what you're saying. We'd like to kind of stick by our proposal and, you know, just go with whatever vote that you come out with tonight. But it's not something that, at this point, we can do.
Well, I think we're adding it as a condition.
Okay.
And, you know, it's either, I don't know if there's other options. We either take it out, but we're adding it as a condition.
I understand that.
That will go, and as you well know.
Yeah.
We're recommending board and to the village board, and they will see it, and, you know, when I went before them, they were okay with the condition. They didn't talk about that.
Right.
So
Right, okay.
see how it goes.
Right.
And is there anything else, Brooke, on that one?
No, that's it.
Right, because we didn't do address. And how are we going to word the sidewalk again?
Okay, I have, it is requested that the village board consider requiring the construction of a sidewalk in the vacated right-of-way.
Okay, great, thank you. I think we've got general consensus from us and from the petitioner, so we're good.
And then we have a couple additional conditions of, to add to the motion per the engineering memo. I can read those as well.
And they're in there too?
Yes.
Okay.
Shall I read those?
Sure. And this is for the final PUD, right?
Correct.
Great.
The permit submittal shall address the comments provided by Hager Engineering on August 17, 2017, including but not limited to the requirement for IDOT and MWRD approval prior to permit issuance, and that the plat of vacation and plat of subdivision shall be approved and recorded prior to permit submittal.
Okay. And that's on 2017-9, right?
Yes.
Okay. So do we have a motion for 2017-9 special use site plan approval of a final plan unit development for multifamily residences?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Johnson, second by Commissioner Creech. Mr. Secretary?
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Creech?
Yes.
Commissioner Bonova?
Yes.
Commissioner Dorban?
No.
Commissioner Powers votes no. Chairman Rafato?
No. PC 17-15, I'm sorry, so Commissioner, we have one absent
Oh, yeah.
and one absent.
It's approved.
It just, no, it just goes to the board with
A 3-3.
3-3. All conditions are there, just goes to the board 3-3. It's not approved or disapproved. So Commissioner Dorban, Rafato, and Powers voted no.
Yes. Okay.
And PC 17-15,
I have a,
right, you have a couple of things on that one.
yes, 1 second. I have two conditions of approval also that were noted in the engineering comment memo from today. First, that the platification shall be reviewed and approved by the village board prior to approval of the final plat of subdivision. And two, that the final plat shall be revised to address the comments provided by Hager Engineering on August 17, 2017, prior to the execution by the board.
Do we have a motion on PC 17-15, approval of a final plat of subdivision?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Johnson, second by Commissioner Creech. Mr. Secretary?
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes?
Commissioner Creech?
Yes.
Commissioner Blanova?
Yes.
Commissioner Dorban?
No,
Commissioner Powers votes no, and Chairman Rafato?
No. Motion to close?
So moved.
We don't need to.
You don't need
No,
to.
we don't need this right
Not a
now.
public
Come
hearing.
on.
Not a public hearing.
Oh, this final is not a public hearing. That's right, I'm sorry. I get all these things confused. Can I borrow that pad? You'll have something to sign?
Me to say?
One more thing to print out. Might as well just stay there. There was just something on HBO talking about these huge developments that are the baseball diamonds and how these things are just popping up in small towns to generate revenue. You know,
Indoor diamonds?
4 or 5 times the size of these
Oh, my
the
God.
baseball. You know, they have baseball, soccer, indoor soccer, volleyball, and some of these towns are depending on that additional revenue for these things. There's one family that was on there, they spend $15,000 a year on each kid to travel 30 weeks a year.
I don't know.
That's a lot.
You thinking about doing that, Jim, with the team you got developing?
No, I think I'm just going to be an umpire or something. So, Mr. Shapiro, if you could sign each one of these. There's 2 separate ones for each of the petitions. What we didn't do was select the light. We wanted the one on the right.
Yeah.
Pardon?
I think the minutes.
They'll make sure.
Okay, great, thank you.
I think they got her. I think they heard you loud and clear.
Here, Mr. Shapiro, you get one of each with everything on there. Whoops. I need one that's signed, 15, that one, and then just miss that one, but they'll be your copies, so that's great, thank you. Thank you, guys. Other business.
Approval of minutes first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Did you take my notepad?
Well, can we have that notepad?
Oh, this one?
That's
Yeah.
mine.
I was going to look at how the secret notes.
That's official village property.
Yeah, that'd be, yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't have, hold on a second, let me go back to the agenda. Approval minutes for August 10th, 2017?
One comment on that?
Yes.
Just a housekeeping thing I noticed this afternoon. The page numbering on it goes 1 of 1, or 2 of 2, 3 of 3, 4 of 4, instead of, 2 of 9, 3 of 9.
Okay. That's fine. So do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Other business? Brooke?
I have nothing.
Commissioner Johnson?
I have nothing.
Commissioner Blanova?
I have nothing, sir.
Commissioner Powers?
I have nothing.
Gentlemen over there, thank you very much. Commissioner Dorban?
nothing.
Commissioner Creech?
Nothing, thank you.
I just something, it's not business related. It's my grandson's 8th birthday. He's my oldest grandson, made me a grandfather, and my wife a grandmother. I'm very happy, so happy birthday, Benny.
Happy birthday,
And,
Benny.
I want to thank everybody for their thoughtful input into this. This is the type of dialogue that I personally like to see in our petitions that comes before us. We're going to have a lot more coming before us, and we need to keep that high standard. And we're going to have some disagreements, and that's okay. But we just have disagreements here, and we just have to remember to keep it at a professional level internally within our board here, our commission here, with our staff, and also with the petitioners. They are not adversaries. Their intention, of course, is to benefit them, to make money on this. They're not in this to lose money. And we just need to ensure that what they're presenting is a quality product, and that we treat them that way. We treat them with the same respect that we do for anyone that we would talk to. They put a lot of time and effort into this, and these two petitioners tonight, Burger King and this, the quality of their presentations is exactly what we are looking for, though, you know, they clog up my iPad where it's next to impossible to page through those things anymore, but that will be solved too. And again, thank you to Brooke and Mallory. There's a lot of work done here, and the staff, you know, with Andrew and whoever else helps Brooke through all of these things. So again, thank you. But it's just a matter of, we have dialogue with everyone. We have dialogue with our petitioners, and this is we treat them as professionally as we would treat any coworkers that we have. And again, this is a dialogue. This isn't a trial. Nobody's on trial here. We just have differences, and we try to reconcile those through our discussions, which were very good. And hopefully the board will heed our recommendations. So with that, if we don't have...
One comment. I just wanted to have one comment.
Yes.
I don't know if anybody realized, but our packet this time was 217 pages.
Yeah.
And if you thought about how many times we've had packets of that size, and the amount of money that we have saved for printing and getting those packets to us, these iPads have come in so handy, and it has been such a good move for all of us. And it has been such a money saver for the village. I just think it's just worth bringing up again.
Just compiling all of that, I agree, Commissioner Dorbin, I agree wholeheartedly. And it probably helps the petitioner too, that they don't, because they're printing a lot of this stuff, those blueprints that we used to get, and, you know, they would be all over. You're exactly right. As a matter of fact, I asked Brooke about our new iPads, because what's happening is that these packets are getting so big, and the glossies and everything are just taking up so much space, it's hard to page through without it having to cycle through. And I get frustrated when I'm looking for something and it's just waiting and waiting and waiting. So hopefully our new iPads will come, you know, and it'll make it a little bit easier, but you're exactly right. You're exactly right. It makes it...
Even with the new iPads, it'll still be money saving in the long run.
Oh, gosh, yes, exactly. Yep. So with that said, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Dorban, second by Commissioner Powers. All those in favor?
Aye.
5 minutes 8. Thank you all.